So you want to take better pictures of wildlife, but you're not too sure where to start. This video is a great start, actually. My name is Sia Zerbi, and I've been taking photographs around the world for the past 10 years. Now, when I first started, I was probably like many of you watching. I didn't know what camera to use. I didn't know what different lenses were good for photographing different animals. I didn't know camera settings. I didn't know how to edit my pictures. So I wanted this video to be an instructional video for you guys to help you take better pictures of wildlife, and I didn't want it to be restricted to just having a big expensive camera. I wanted to be able to, take photos with your tablet and teach people that this is a very powerful tool if you know how to use it. You can even use your cell phone if you know how to use it. There'll be a lot of tips and tricks in this video to help you photograph wildlife more efficiently and take better photos. These are a few photos that I've taken over the years just to give you an idea of the type of photography that I like, different scenarios I was in to photograph these animals. This one's really cool. I really like that one. So there's a lot of variety in the animal kingdom. I love photographing animals because there's feathers, there's textures, there's different colors, there's whole new wildlife surrounding them. They live in the trees, they live in the water, they live in savannas. Just photographing animals adds so much depth to your photography, and they really test your skills. I mean, if you're gonna photograph the wings of a hummingbird, you're gonna need to know a lot of different camera settings than if there's just a monkey sleeping under a tree. All of this information is in a blog post on our website. If you haven't seen our website, I'll put a link below, but everything and more that I talked about in this video is in that blog post, including a big list of all the gear I used, of camera settings, of a lot of techniques in order to photograph animals. First up is equipment, using the right kind of gear. For a lot of the photos that you just saw, I was using this. This is the Sony A7R Mark III. This is a beast of a camera. It's capable of doing so much. It's really incredible, and it has a super long battery life, which is very handy when you're in the middle of nowhere and there's nowhere to charge your camera. Your gear really depends on the type of animals that you're going to photograph. If you're going to take a picture of something that's a lot closer, that might not be afraid of you, then you can get away with, a shorter lens. So this is a 24-70. So to give you an example, this is what a 24-70 lens can do. This is as close as it can zoom. Whereas this bad boy has a lot more zoom. So essentially, the bigger the lens, the farther you can zoom. This basically becomes a telescope with a camera attached. So this is the 100 to 400. I got both of these from B&H Photo. Thank you guys very much for sending me this stuff. It's awesome. To give you an example of this zoom, this is that picture all the way back there. There's tiny, tiny countries zoomed in all the way over here. So imagine if that was a little birdie far, far away, this zoom could get close to it. If you are to photograph an animal that is going to be very far away from you, you're going to need a zoom lens. So it's really important to know what type of wildlife you're going to be photographing to pick the appropriate gear.
Hear ye, hear ye! Get a large lens if you're going to photograph animals far away!
I understand getting a large, expensive camera might be out of some people's budgets. Maybe it's just you don't want to take up photography, but you just want to be able to take good pictures. So you definitely don't need a massive, expensive camera and a huge, long lens. You can use a simple point-and-shoot camera if you want. This is the Sony RX100 Mark V. They also have the VA. They have newer models than this one, but this takes incredible photos. If your camera has a very high megapixel count, if it's 20, 30, 40,000 megapixels, that means that your image is a very large image. If you were to print it out at 40 megapixels, it might be this big. No one's gonna use a picture that big. So if you have a picture that's this big, you can essentially zoom into it on your computer, or if you're going to print it, and it won't lose quality. For some of you, you're going to use your cell phone to take a lot of pictures. This is totally doable if you know how to use it. I have the Note 9, and a big bonus with this phone is that it has pro settings. The main features of this camera, so the aperture, the ISO, the shutter speed, I actually have control over with this phone. There's a big difference in that size. Within the pro settings of the phone, you have ISO, you have shutter speed, you have your aperture, you have a bunch of different settings. So with this phone, you can actually do a lot. That goes for a lot of new phones these days. These are very powerful machines. Even tablets. I was on a recent trip and a lot of people were using tablets to take photos. I mean, it does look funny to have your big tablet, you know, and you're trying to take a picture of something. It's a little intrusive, especially because it's such a big screen. But if that's all you have, then that's what you have to work with. Like, this is just a regular old iPhone, but you attach a specific case that has a lens attachment, and you can take an image like this with the lens attached, becomes a super fisheye. This is what it looks like from the back. And if I take the lens off, that's it. Just goes right there on the camera. And they have a bunch of different ones. This one's a macro, so you can get super up close. This one's like a telephoto lens, so you can zoom in. Another fisheye wide lens. Like, this is a powerful little attachment for your phone. I want to get into some camera settings because camera settings are very important. Now, this translates to the phone, or, you know, a mirrorless camera or a DSLR. If you want the highest quality photos, make sure you're setting your phone or your camera to the highest quality. I shoot everything in RAW, and that's just a better file format than JPEG. JPEGs are a smaller, more compressed file, whereas RAW is a much larger file, but you get more detail if you want to be editing your photos. If you don't care to edit your photos, then I recommend just sticking to JPEG file. If you are photographing a hummingbird, like this picture of a hummingbird that I got, I had to capture this at a very high frame rate. Because that subject was moving so fast, my camera had to be just as fast. I had to set my camera to take a picture in 64,000th of a second. Whereas this picture of a rhino sleeping under a tree, I could take my sweet ass time. So could my camera, because it's not moving fast. Try to get away from the auto settings on your camera. Try and learn the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO. If you learn these three things, I know they seem daunting, but if you understand those three elements of your camera or your phone or your tablet or whatever, your photos will get a lot better and you'll have a lot more fun taking photos. Lighting your shot. Often you're going to be using daylight to light your shots if you're going out in the day, unless you're going out at night and you're photographing moths or spiders or frogs or I don't know what comes out at night, tigers? If you're using daylight, remember to set your camera setting to capture daylight so you're not having it on a weird white balance setting. Also, you're going to want to go out in the early morning or late in the evening. During midday, animals are usually taking a break. That's usually when it's the hottest, and they don't want to be out when it's blistering hot, so it's just incredible to photograph at these times of the day, and that's when your animals are going to be doing the most interesting things. So this will be like the sunrise coming, you can see a lot of interesting shadows. At midday, the sun's like right here. It's not that interesting. I mean, I don't think I'm the best subject for this. And then at sunset, you're gonna get like more of those awesome shadows. You can see different ridges. This side of my face is gonna be darker, this is lighter. It's just a lot more interesting. Being discreet while photographing wildlife. This is very important because a lot of the subjects you're going to be photographing are skittish of humans, and they don't want you to be out there following them and trying to snap away pictures, making noise. Often what you'll do is just scare your subject away, and that's not good for photos. When you're using a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, often when you take a picture, you hear this. That can be very, very disruptive to wildlife. What I love about the A7 series is it has a silent shooting mode. So you can be taking pictures, like I am right now, and you're not gonna hear a thing. That's the benefit of going with a mirrorless camera, is that there's no actual shutter that's opening and closing that disrupts wildlife. You have to be like ninja. So if you are filming with this camera or with a cell phone, make sure to turn off any sounds, especially on phones. That drives me nuts when people have like shutter clicks on their phones every time you're taking a picture. It's completely unnecessary, and it's really going to scare your subject away. Another way to be discreet is to be hidden from your scent to animals. If a zebra or a giraffe or something picks up your scent in the wind, then that might scare them off because you kind of smell like a predator. A secret way to get around this is to actually try and stand downwind from the animal. If the wind is blowing this direction and your animal is here, if you stand on this side, the wind is going to pick up your scent and blow it towards the animal, and that might scare them away. Whereas if you stand on the opposite side, downwind, they won't be able to smell you. But if you're standing downwind from Pumbaa, beware.
And oh, the shame! Thought of changing my name! Oh, what's in a name?
The third way to be discreet is to actually wear clothing that isn't bright and colorful. I mean, it's great if you're hunting, but not if you're hunting to photograph animals. You don't want to stand out. Try and blend into your surroundings so that animals don't see you coming a mile away and run away. Framing your shot. Now, a shot isn't just about capturing that subject, but it's about capturing it in its environment, in the setting. You're trying to tell a story with your photo. So don't just look at a zebra. Look at where the zebra is. What's it doing? What trees are around it? What shrubs are around it? What other animals are around it that you can frame into that to make a more interesting image? Also, backgrounds. You're really going to want to pay attention to backgrounds and horizon lines. If the horizon is kind of like this, it doesn't make for a pleasant image to look at. Our eyes, because we stand on two legs that are more or less the same length, that we like to see horizon lines flat. If they look a little off, it throws us off. Also, make sure you're giving your subjects enough headroom so that you're not taking photos like this, or you're not giving them too much headroom and it's just looking like there's a lot of space above there. You're gonna want to frame your subject, you know, more or less in the middle, or, you know, 2/3, so that it just creates a more interesting image. Editing is really where your photo comes to life, where all your hard work of getting up early, getting that awesome sunrise with that zebra in the shot with cool shadows, all your framing work, shooting in RAW so you can just edit a whole dynamic range of color. This is where all of that comes together in the editing, and you can really play with so much. I don't worry too much about how the color looks when I'm taking the photo. I just make sure that it's framed in a way that looks good, and that, you know, the lighting is good enough in order to edit it in the software, because shooting in RAW just gives you so much more play with that. You can also edit on your phone. One of the apps I use to edit photos is Snapseed. This guy right here. So there's a ton of these preset colors that you can adjust in here, but the best feature is here, where you have all these different features, if you want to add text, if you want to crop, if you want to vignette, if you want to just like paint on the image, there's so much that you can do in this one app, and it's completely free, which is awesome. I also like that I have a pen, so I can actually do like, I can zoom in and do like minor editing or tweaking. If I want to paint something out, if I want to make my skin look purple, I can do that. If you have other tips that I didn't cover in this video, please write them in the comment box. I'll be sure to reply. If you guys have any other questions, let us know. If you have other ideas for videos, questions you want answered, I would love to make it into a video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.